Meanwhile, the police minister has weighed in on the Krugersdorp gang rape incident, saying police are planning a structured response to combat crime in the area. The police minister is expected to visit the victims and their families soon.
We'll be going to that community in the shortest possible time, because again there are groups there that are moving around, putting fear. The lady, as I was doing that media briefing there, came with even more horrifying stories. So say, Minister, you're complaining about 10 men raping one woman. We are raped by 20 men here. And she raised an issue that herself is a victim and all that. So we have agreed with both National Commission and Provincial. We will be using the deep slot approach, and that's why we don't talk about deep slot now, because which means the approach has worked.
Let's get you more from the ground. We take you to Krugersdorp, where we find Newzroom Afrika's Linda Mnisi, who has been unearthing some harrowing stories, Linda. And you're standing by to speak to a local CPF member. What are they telling you?
Well, Dudu, as you may know, that at this point more arrests have been made here in Krugersdorp. One then wonders if that brings some comfort to the community here in Krugersdorp. You'll remember a couple of years ago, we came to this very same area when there were reports of, violence that was breaking out at an informal settlement called Makulugama. In fact, it was situated right behind me, and from what I'm seeing now, it has been removed. Many of the occupants were said to be illegal miners in this particular area, but it seemed it was demolished and people never came back. Here, when we visited some couple of years ago, we also were able to spot like machinery that they were using to crush some of the gold that they discovered through illegal mining, and there were big concerns. I remember how community members, ordinary people who lived in this informal settlement, were quite shaken by what was happening at the time. But I'm joined now, as you mentioned, by a local CPF member, Nicoline Trom. Thank you so much for your time, Nicoline. We're seeing all of these arrests. They've risen to about 84. We know that 2 were fatally shot during that arrest. But one then wonders if it allays your fears as the community, if it really resolves the issue, given the fact that at this point, police have not indicated if any of the 82 that are in custody are linked to this murder, to these rapes rather.
Thank you. Positive and creation energies to you. At this point, not yet, because we still see them amongst us. We do take into cognizance that it will not be an overnight thing, or our issues would not be resolved in a wink of an eye. We are grateful that at least now there's action that has been made, but it is still not enough. We are talking about a community that has been grieved for so many years, a community that has lost hope, because our fears is after the hype, then what? Do we go back to normal? Right now we do see police visibility. We are actually protected for the first time in so many years that we feel protected. We are able to sleep, but after the hype, what then? Are we going back to our normal lives? As we do see that the blanket people are still amongst us, because according to our assessment, those that are arrested are mostly the Mozambicans and probably the Zimbabweans, but the blanket people are still out here and in numbers. They're still out there, and now the fear is maybe they are planning their retaliation. We don't know, but we can only keep hoping that consistency, at least at this time, will be given to the community.
I managed to uncover some of the horrific stories that keep emerging out of this area. Not far from where the crime scene is just an informal settlement called Plastic View. I know you're quite familiar with it. And I spoke to women there who said just 3 weeks ago they were abducted while sleeping with their partners and raped repeatedly by the men who were clad in blankets. Talk to us about some of the issues that you know of that have come out of this area that women continue to report to you as members of the CPF?
Firstly, let me just clarify, we do not have a CPF in West Village. The CPF that's supposed to be covering West Village is actually afraid to come to West Village. We don't have any members in West Village that are there. What we have is a community committee that was elected by the community because of these heinous crimes that keeps on happening. Because amongst our community, there are those ones that still believes that we can change the status quo of West Village, that still has hope to see West Village habitable. So with that said, it's actually frustrating and very much depressing. You wake up in the morning or you are asleep, your phone rings and then there's a woman crying, telling you what's going on in what they had experienced in their lives. And these are the crimes that are not reported, like what you are saying now, that those women were abducted and repeatedly raped. Those crimes are not reported because of the fear. You know, as much as we keep conscientizing our community that fear is the absence of knowledge. If you know that you will receive help, yes, our police have handed us over on a silver platter, but we cannot lose hope. And when the crimes are not reported, then the South African stats analysis is capturing an inaccurate number as to what is happening. So we urge the community, please do report those crimes. They are horrid. Some things you can't say, you know, it's without sharing a tear, without attaching your emotions to it. There's a time a 4-year-old was telling me what happened to the mother and what happened to the father. From that on, I was never the same again. And I can't imagine a child living with that trauma. A child is left to experience that kind of life. It's not fair. It is inhumane. It is not right.
I know this is out of your jurisdiction, but perhaps just as a community, has there been any update in relation to this production company that was shooting this music video? Do you have any information about them? And do you know if it was the first time that they had used that particular area?
We don't have any news, and what we have, unfortunately we can't share because it's still on an ongoing investigation. So, we don't know why they particularly choose that area, because they had a very secure place where they did their first scene at Cowboy Towns, which is the heart of West Village business.
And, I mean, is it quite common that people would go there and shoot music videos? From what we saw yesterday, it looked like a secluded area, very enclosed, unless you know where it is or unless you know where you're going.
It is not common at all. You know, I would say that the moment you enter West Village, it greets you with its calamities, because you can see from just looking the status of the community that is here. Look around you. It tells you that there is no life in West Village. And I truly cannot understand or comprehend why the production company chose that particular space, which actually is scary from standing here, because it's covered with the bush and there's this white mountain that's there. We would always say that if that mountain can be brought down, many bones would be found there. There's a lot of dead bodies that would be found there, people that are buried alive there.
So these crimes in that particular area, you would say, are quite common. People enter there at their own risk.
Yes, that's true, because we around early this year, there were a number of cases reported of women that had been found raped and murdered in that vicinity. So it is actually it's a no-go area, and I think it's one of the reasons that West Village is flagged as a high crime risk area.
I want to thank you so much for your time. That's Nicoline from there, revealing some really horrific details about the place itself, and saying that the information that they have about this production company at the moment, they cannot share because, of course, as you may know, the matter is still under police investigation. The police yesterday telling us, even today, that the people or the owners of that production company remain victims of crime, which then makes them not to be in a position to share many details around them and their circumstances. So it remains then to be seen what will come out of those investigations. The community is worried that while they're seeing police visibility at this particular point, what will happen to it when the story starts dying down, when the cameras go off, and of course everyone turns their back? What will happen of this community? She says that what she is part of is a community organization that has been established as a result of the fear from the CPF to cover this area. You'll remember the Community Policing Forum plays an integral part in crime fighting in communities. They're often the first point of reference or the first point of call when crimes happen in the area. They safeguard these communities. And it tells you a lot when leaders in the community say that even the CPF members are afraid of coming to do their job in this area.
Linda Mnisi, thank you very much for that update. We'll continue to reflect on that story.